Hey, it's Benjie Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Denis R. Tougas. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, The Feast of Angels, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And people, listen, if you want to gather everything that Denis has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site. And that's DenisRTougas.com. So that's going to be DENIS, not two N's, just one. The letter R, and then his last name, TOUGAS.com. There you'll find more information on Denis, more information on this fantastic narrative, as well as find the hyperlink set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's DenisRTougas.com. And I will say, Denis was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best publishers in the business, Author Reputation Press. So if you or anybody you know have a book that they'd like moved, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact the fantastic team at ARP and have them move it for you. You can find out more information on them at authorreputationpress.com. And listen, people, it is an absolute pleasure to have Denis here on the line. Now, the moment you go to his Amazon page, his Barnes & Noble page, or his personal website, DenisRTougas.com, and you start to do any research on his book, The Feast of Angels, you're instantly going to understand what you're in store for. Now, for me, let's get down to the brass tacks here, okay? Let's get down to the ground floor. I'm looking forward to this because people, I don't know about you, but I have been yearning for a journey. I've been yearning for something to take me out of the day-to-day monotony that has become this COVID living situation. Now, granted, it seems almost like 40 years now since it all began. But, we are starting to loosen the pressure, right? And depending on where you are and where you're living, that lockdown is in varying degrees. But one thing is certain. There's still that overriding, that looming pressure, all right? It's still there with varying, with different variants that are coming out. Now, listen, I need something to be able to keep me inside and keep me very well occupied and entertained. And people, I'm telling you, I got just the thing for you. The Feast of Angels is a fictional narrative that is really one for you to get lost in, okay? It's a suspense thriller. And at the end of the day, Denis is the expert. He's written the book, he's done the research, and he's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. But sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride, because by the time we're done here today, you're going to run on over to his Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or his personal website and purchase your copies. That much I'm sure of. Denis, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity of being on your show.
Absolutely. Listen, Denis, you're too kind, man. The pleasure is all ours, okay? We get a lot of guests or a lot of potential guests that come to our network wanting to be interviewed. And like I said, for me, a fictional narrative of this magnitude, I think is profound because it's so well timed. I mean, this is something, as we discussed in the pre-screening call, is perfect for the silver screen, right? So being able to see it developed into a television series or a film is something absolutely plausible, and we could talk about that later on. But again, something to take us away from this day-to-day monotony, right? In a safe way, I think is wonderful. So thank you for being a guest, and we are absolutely looking forward to it. Now, Denis, before we go into the book, I want to start off with some inspiration because I think it's really important. Talk to us about some of the origins for the Feast of Angels and why you felt compelled to write the narrative.
Well, actually, while doing research, I was surprised to see that, according to FBI statistics, some 80,000 people a year go missing in the United States alone and are never accounted for again. The number is like losing the residents of the city of Canton, Ohio, or Fort Smith, Arkansas, every year. And when you think of thinking of terms of worldwide losses, the number is exponential and hard to explain away. This had me thinking of why and the reasoning behind the numbers.
Dennis, thank you very much for that information. Man, without further ado, The Feast of Angels. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
The story begins with the lead character, Father Giuseppe Lorenzo, a historian, assistant curator for the Vatican Library, and a special counselor to the influential Cardinal Robbia of Milan, Italy, finding his mother dead in her bed, and nothing is left of her but ash, something which he cannot readily explain. When the reigning pope dies under similar circumstances, he realizes something is radically amiss. Meanwhile, in Egypt, a visionary, Anher the Miner, wanders out into the desert to contemplate a political issue his son is having and witnesses a raging battle in the desert under the influence of a blue light that streaks out of the heavens and into the valley on the desert floor. An angel appears and tells him that he must bear witness to what he saw. In the interim, the scientific community is aware of the light through the use of satellite tracking of anomalies and tries to figure out exactly what it is. Cardinal Robbia of Milan, and soon to be elected Pope, becomes aware of the anomaly and is asked to look into the issue. He gives the query to Father Lorenzo to investigate. Father Lorenzo is aided in his endeavor from an unlikely source, Florence Rinna, a reporter from the Washington Post, who becomes aware of Father Lorenzo's mother and former Pope's disappearance. They team up and try to solve the puzzle that confronts them. Meanwhile, calamities such as volcanoes, earthquakes, and extreme weather conditions rise radically as the world's scientists try to explain why. Along with the rise in earthly calamities, more and more people all over the world disappear at an alarming rate. Father Lorenzo and his counterpart, Florence Rinna, the Post reporter, try to ascertain why. Flo realizing there is a government cover-up for some unknown reason. With the aid of the scientific community and an ex-CIA agent named Trey and the visionary Anher, they are able to replicate the light and find a raging battle in the Sahara Desert between angels and devils in a parallel universe, eventually broadcasting it for all the world to see. Unfortunately, the good side is losing and the battle is retreating towards Mount Megiddo, an area which, according to the Bible, will be a staging area for the final battle between good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Dennis, curiosity for myself, man, you mentioned Mount Megiddo. Talk to me and please educate me, because I don't know where that is or the significance to it. Talk to our listening audience about what is Mount Megiddo.
Mount Megiddo is actually a actual place, or the former city of Megiddo, which is referenced in Hebrew as meaning Armageddon. It's also referenced in the book of Revelations, in case anybody's interested in looking it up.
Dennis, next question here for you, man. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing the book? Or if not a highlight, something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating before you began on the journey?
Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, I was actually thought-inspired at times. And there are references in the book that I came across that I really wasn't quite sure how they got there. I'm thinking at times there was divine inspiration, maybe.
Dennis, who would you say is your intended audience, and what are you hoping to see them take from your book?
Well, actually, I think the intended audience is anyone from 18 to 85, to be perfectly honest with you. And I believe they would take away a different perspective as far as what they perceive to be truth.
There you have it. Dennis, listen, we know about this fantastic book. We know about your background. I want to know about the future, man. What is upcoming? Please tell me there's another book on the horizon.
Well, actually, there is. There actually is another book on the horizon. It's called Inner Sanction, and I believe it'll challenge the reader as well to a certain extent.
People, listen. You know what you have to do. There's more on the horizon, as Dennis just said. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, DenisRTougas.com are the places you have to go. And at least as of right now, The Feast of Angels is the title you have to pick up. Dennis, last question for you here, man, as we close out. Now, as I mentioned to you on the pre-screening call, I'm an artist myself. So I love having this platform to really be able to utilize and pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there listening in. Now, in this instance, other writers. Now, you are someone that has been through the process. You've written this fantastic narrative. As you've just stated, there's another one set to come out very shortly. Well, I want to take an opportunity and instill some words of wisdom from you. Dennis, for any new writers out there listening in right now, what are some words of wisdom you can give them about the journey they're getting ready to embark upon?
Oh, I believe the journey is a challenging one. But I also believe it's very rewarding as well, because in the end, you finally put together something that you created and that you try to give to your audience, and hopefully they enjoy it. I personally like to challenge the reader and hope that they come away with a different point of view as far as what you write.
I absolutely love that. And people, you know what I love even more? Is we're at the end of the interview now. We've discussed so much information, and yet somehow we've barely scratched the surface. There's still so much left to be discovered. Listen, I said it before. I'm going to say it again. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, DenisRTougas.com are the places you have to go. The Feast of Angels is the title you have to pick up, and Denis R. Tougas is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. Check back into DenisRTougas.com frequently so you can get the new book the moment it becomes available. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. As I mentioned when we first started the interview, I'm looking to get lost in a journey. This book is the perfect exit strategy. So head on over there, pick up your copies today. A wonderful book to add to your shelf. An even better gift to add to someone else's. So you know where to go. Dennis, this has been an absolute pleasure. Such an honor. I truly mean that. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
And thank you for having me. Appreciated it.